There's no future in such a rundown old factory like this. It's a good opportunity to cut off the loan altogether.
When I, who took over the management of the factory from my father, approached the bank to discuss financing for new equipment, my classmate, who was in charge of a loan, suddenly cut off the funding. My classmate has always looked down on me as a dull and uncool guy ever since we were kids. Their love for flashy things and choosing everything based on looks hasn't changed over time. Sure, our factory's exterior and equipment are old, and it might not meet their standards, but on what basis do they say there's no future?
All right, pay back the $100,000 you owe us, right away.
Got it. The next day, I immediately repaid the $100,000 we had borrowed. Then, right after, the bank's branch manager called me with a voice close to tears. My name is Norman Bates. I manage the factory I inherited from my father and make a living from it. My family consists of my wife and one daughter. My wife Olivia and I were originally working as employees for the same company, and even after getting married and having children, we had planned on building our home in that area. But one day, my father, who ran a factory back home, fell ill, leading to surgery and hospitalization, causing a bit of a stir. The surgery was successful, and he recovered enough to resume his daily life without any issues, but he couldn't continue managing his family's factory. With about 30 employees to think about and no other relatives or siblings to turn to, my father begged me to take over the factory. Some employees have been with us since I was a child. Like me, some of them have just started their own families. Since my mother had already passed away, there would also be concerns about my father living alone. Considering all this, I couldn't just ignore the situation. The countryside back home is quite different from here, and I'd have to quit my job. But I promise I won't let you and our daughter Mary go through any hardship. So, will you come with me? I earnestly appealed to Olivia, honestly expressing my desire to take over my father's factory. Bracing for blame or even a breakup, Olivia smiled gently and said, "Okay."
Mary loves Grandpa, so she'll be thrilled to be near him. And I believe in you, Norman. You can do it.
Determined to live up to Olivia's consideration, I began relearning how to manage a factory with all my might. Since taking over, I've been swamped with work, parenting, and studying management. I've been so busy, the last 3 years are almost a blur. Now, our daughter Mary is in first grade. The three of us are living quite happily. So far, I think I've managed to keep my promise not to let my family go through any hardship.
Norman, can we talk in the office after the morning assembly?
One morning, upon arriving at work, I was approached by Chris, the factory supervisor. Heading to the office as instructed, a discussion ensued with the clerk, Emma, joining in.
Lately, the intense heat has been causing a lot of employees to fall. I myself feel like I'm about to pass out when I'm on the floor for too long.
Especially concerned about the older employees. Not just heat stroke measures, but it might be good to update our equipment and machinery for better efficiency.
Chris and Emma are highly skilled workers who have been with this factory for a long time. Even during the previous owner's time, they were always proactive in suggesting improvements for the workplace environment. Having been fondly cared for by them since I was a child, they are people I can trust. Understood. I'll contact the bank today and propose a discussion about financing. After finishing the conversation with the two, I promptly reached out to Sinclair Bank, which has been assisting us since my father's era. Upon requesting a loan, I was told that a bank representative would visit us tomorrow. I heard that the bank loan officer who had dealt with my father is retiring at the end of this year, and now someone else has taken over the account. It seems the new officer is about my age. For me, as the second generation, This could be a good chance to get to know the bank, hoping to build a good relationship with the new officer. However, any illusions I had were quickly shattered.
Oh no, this place is a mess.
The new officer, Jake, blurted out as his first words. This Jake turned out to be a classmate of mine. Surprised to find out he had returned to our hometown after going off to a prestigious university in the city. Jake was known among our classmates as someone who easily hurts others, and I've had no good impressions of him since high school. Fond of flashy things and judging everything by its appearance, I, not being flashy, often found myself unjustly criticized by him. He hasn't changed a bit since back then. Despite my unease, I led him to the reception room and began our discussion. With the aging of our equipment, it's starting to interfere with our employees' work, so we're looking to update some of our facilities. Would it be possible to get this amount of financing? While showing the documents Emma and I had prepared, Jake seemed disinterested and half listening throughout. His attitude made me slightly irritated. "Are you listening?" When I asked, Jake let out a heavy sigh.
Norman, do you seriously believe what you're saying?
His tone was incredibly condescending and confrontational. Huh? Unable to understand why he was acting this way, I frowned and replied. Then Jake sighed deeply again and, crossing his legs, blurted out,
"There's no future in such a rundown old factory like this. Maybe it'll last another 2 or 3 years. There's no need for new equipment. No need at all. It's a good opportunity to cut off the loan altogether."
Jake's brazen statement nearly made my blood boil, but I knew that losing my temper now would only play into his hands. I managed to keep my composure and responded quietly. "On what basis do you say there's no future?"
You still haven't repaid the $100,000 you owe us. And you're asking for more under these circumstances. The bank isn't a charity, you know.
That doesn't answer my question. Have we ever missed a monthly repayment? Apparently displeased with my quick retort, Jake clicked his tongue and stood up from his seat.
Anyway, we can't provide the loan. No matter what you say, it's up to us to decide whether to lend or not.
With that, Jake quickly left the reception room. The conversation wasn't over yet. Thinking this, I chased after him.
"Daddy, I'm home."
Just as Jake and I stepped outside at the same time, we heard my daughter Mary's voice as she returned from piano lessons. Noticing Jake, Mary immediately smiled and gave a beautiful greeting.
"Hello."
She always greets the factory employees, so she must have quickly assumed Jake was someone work-related and did the same. Olivia was watching this from a short distance away. Jake, on his part, looked at Mary with annoyance and didn't bother to respond. What's more, turning his gaze towards Olivia, he started smirking.
"Are you the wife here? Well, you're young, and pretty too."
Jake stared at Olivia for a moment, then slowly started to approach her. Sensing something odd about his behavior, Mary grabbed my arm and hid behind me. Olivia gave a wry smile and made a brief greeting, then hurried towards me.
"I was classmates with Norman, you know. Must be tough living with the owner of such a rundown factory as your husband, huh? If you ever need money, just let me know."
As he passed by, Jake unilaterally said this and suddenly grabbed Olivia's hand, forcing his business card into her grasp. "Hey!"
Norman, it's okay.
I almost lashed out at Jake, but Olivia hastily pulled me back.
Don't do anything rash. He's from the bank.
Olivia quickly realized that Jake was a bank employee who had been dealing with our factory's financing, and Mary was there too. By the time I regained my composure, Jake had already left.
Such an unpleasant bank officer. Duck, that was creepy.
Olivia brushed off where Jake had grabbed her and was about to tear up the business card he had forced on her. "Wait!" I'll keep this. It might serve as evidence. I did ask for a loan, but he flatly refused. I'll go talk to Chris and Emma about it. You head home first. After sending off Olivia and Mary home, I discussed the entire incident with Chris and Emma. As expected, both of them, along with the rest of the factory staff, unanimously agreed that the new officer is really unpleasant.
It might get busy in the second half of the year, but we can manage the $100,000. Let's just pay it off in one go and cut ties with Sinclair Bank.
Emma's suggestion was immediately agreed upon by the whole factory. The next day, I promptly repaid the $100,000 in full and, as a matter of courtesy, contacted Sinclair Bank, though I didn't want to. I ended up speaking with Jake by chance. As soon as he realized it was me, his tone became arrogantly dismissive. But it didn't bother me today. Thank you for your time yesterday. We've made a lump sum payment of $100,000, so please confirm. We'll be moving to another bank. We've been under your care since my predecessor's time. After delivering a slow and polite farewell, Jake snorted triumphantly. Got it, got it. That's refreshing to hear.
Hope you find a bank willing to take you. Well, do your best.
Thanks. Now, we're just former classmates, huh? You do your best too. It's probably going to be really tough from here on out. With that, I quickly hung up the phone. I felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, a sense of relief. The call from the branch manager of Sinclair Bank came the next day, in the afternoon. The branch manager, Tommy, who had been involved with my father's generation, was someone I had met a few times at the factory when I was a child.
Norman, I am terribly sorry for the extreme rudeness our employee displayed the other day. Please allow me to apologize once more.
Tommy's voice over the phone was frantically apologetic, and I did my best to calm him down, saying, "Please, take it easy. Anyway, I will come over right now," he said before hanging up. I was about to head to the bank, leaving the rest to Chris, when Olivia approached me.
I have something to say to you, so I'm coming.
Olivia, who usually stays out of work matters, looked unusually serious. She hadn't said much since Jake forcibly gave her his business card, but it seemed she had been quite upset since that incident. When Olivia and I arrived at Sinclair Bank, Tommy was anxiously waiting near the entrance. As soon as he saw us, he hurried over and loudly apologized. "I am so sorry for the behavior of our discourteous employee." His actions caught the attention of other customers, who began to look our way and murmur among themselves. Tommy, you're causing a disturbance for the other customers. Can we move somewhere else?" Somehow calming down Tommy, we were led to a private room, where he again offered a vigorous apology. But of course, Tommy himself was not at fault. I detailed our recent encounter with Jake, how the financing was unilaterally terminated, the disrespectful way he treated my family, and that the person we truly desired an apology from was not the branch manager but Jake. At that moment, without a knock, the door to the private room opened.
Hey Norman, don't just say things that make you look good.
Without any greeting, he barged in and started with that remark.
What kind of way is that to talk? Norman is an important customer.
It's fine. He's a classmate of mine.
Even in front of his boss, he didn't flinch and stuck to his guns. It was almost impressive, in a way. As I was idly thinking this, Olivia was watching the exchange between Jake and the branch manager with a look of disbelief.
So what if he's a classmate? Do you even realize how significant his factory Bates Manufacturing is?
Just some old factory in the countryside, right? What's so special about that?
You idiot. Haven't you read the handover documents from your predecessor? Bates Manufacturing produces products that are renowned worldwide. A rare gem of a factory.
World-renowned. That's an exaggeration. If that were true, they wouldn't need financing. They'd find their own funds. For equipment, they'd contract their own suppliers.
That's not the point. Can't you even understand that? Are you really a graduate of an elite university? Or is that a false claim?
Unable to watch their back and forth any longer, I finally interjected, not as a business associate, but as a classmate. What's that supposed to mean? Deciding whether to lend or not is up to us. You might think you're in a position to choose, but just as you have the right to choose, we have the right to choose too. Jake, just like before, let out a deep sigh and dismissively said, "What foolishness," as he sat down on the opposite sofa. It seemed he truly didn't understand, so I decided to explain it to him from scratch, in detail. To start, the number of companies that deal with Bates Manufacturing's products is countless, from small local firms to large ones, both within and outside the county. Most of those companies, like us, trust Sinclair Bank and have their deposits there as well. All combined, they probably account for about 70% of Sinclair Bank's deposits. And now, that 70% of customers are one by one stopping their dealings with Sinclair Bank and switching to other banks. Seeing how flustered Tommy was, it was probably just like that. Given the risk of bankruptcy, his desperation to apologize was understandable. I mean, it turns out there are more places that would side with us than with you. After hearing my story, Jake was trembling with anger. However, after a while, Jake let out a snort and started making snide remarks again.
Did you come all this way just to say that sarcastic remark? Our company is so great. We'll cause you to go bankrupt. Is that supposed to be a threat? What a terrible personality.
Could you apologize, please? I looked straight at Jake and said that, if you think it's corruption, that's fine. More than that, you've ridiculed our factory to no end. You've been extremely rude to my wife and daughter. I didn't come here for an apology from the branch manager, but from you.
The fact remains it's just an old factory that skimps on proper equipment. And I only gave your wife my business card. It was just a greeting, a gesture of goodwill.
He insisted he was in the right. It seemed he was twisting the facts to his boss. Just as I was about to present the business card Olivia had given me as evidence, Olivia forcefully stepped in.
Jake, thank you for your business card the other day. When you said, "Call me if you're ever short on cash," I thought it might be some kind of pickup or something. But you do this with everyone, don't you?
With that, Olivia played a video on her phone she had somehow prepared. It showed Jake at a local bakery, telling the female owner, "I can't keep dealing with such a small bakery anymore."
The bakery's owner is a friend of mine. I was thinking of buying some pastries on my way home from work when I happened to catch this.
While saying this, Olivia turned up the volume on her phone. In the video, Jake was doing exactly what he did to Olivia, telling the bakery's owner, "Call me if you're ever short on cash," and handing her his business card.
I wasn't a corporate employee for long, so I might not know much. But is this how you always greet people?
Trying hard not to burst out laughing at Olivia's feigned ignorance, I managed to keep it in.
No. That's none of your business.
Jake's voice was weaker than before, perhaps a bit damaged by being shown up.
If it's none of my business, then please don't hand me your business card. It's creepy. I may not know how important bank employees are, but I do understand that what you're doing is extremely rude.
Olivia's tone was sharp, enough to make even me flinch. Jake, having no comeback, simply turned away. Seeing Jake had no intention of apologizing, I let out a small sigh. Looks like he's not interested in an apology, so let's just wrap this up. Sorry for taking up your time, Tommy. Thanks for everything you've done for us. With that, Tommy was almost prostrating himself, begging, please, anything but that. Seeing him go to such lengths, I really thought Jake was hopeless.
Jake will be dismissed today, and he will take full responsibility. So, could you please reconsider?
Upon hearing the word dismissed, Jake's eyes widened, and after a moment of dumbfounded silence, he literally leaped at the branch manager.
Wait. Tommy, I'm so sorry. From now on, I'll make sure to judge people by looking at them from now on. So just don't fire me.
Silence. Stop disgracing yourself further.
Tommy shouted, nearly in tears, after addressing the bickering pair with the "I'll contact you later," which they seemed not to hear. I was exhausted. Let's go home.
Yo.
Olivia and I, both drained, left the bank, leaving the two behind. Later on, I had another talk with Tommy and was able to successfully secure financing. As he declared, Jake was dismissed that very day. I hesitated for a bit about whether to continue our dealings with Sinclair Bank, but decided to go on as before, accepting that responsibility had been taken. The factory's equipment and crisis were completely renewed, and the employees could now work in a more comfortable environment than ever before. It looks like we'll be able to get through the busy latter half of the year with this setup. Since then, the factory's performance has improved even further. And now we've even started selling our own brand of products. I didn't know what became of Jake after his dismissal, but according to a recent story from a local classmate, he's now working in a wooden factory in the countryside, enduring the cold and heat while doing meticulous work. If he's found honest work and is doing it earnestly, there might still be hope for him. He'll surely gain valuable experiences he could never have had while arrogantly sitting behind a bank counter.
Dad, you have to come to my piano recital this time.
I don't know. I'm pretty busy right now.
What are you talking about, Norman, Mr. President? Leave this to us and go to Mary's recital.
Thanks to you, our work environment has improved, so it's all good. Norman, you've really grown up just like your dad. We can leave this place to you with peace of mind.
Chris and Emma, who had doted on me since I was little, said this with the same kind smiles. Grateful to them both, I lifted the jumping, joyous Mary into my arms and told her, I'm looking forward to it.